Okay, so I have been working on a series of blog posts about making sure people can see the game Chrome, for lack of a better term, when you're broadcasting. So let's see here. Yeah, of course that's not going to work, is it? Where are you at, boy? Alright, okay. Well, whatever. Let me... I need to pull this down about halfway. Not that. This. Alright, come on. OBS, you tripping. Alright, that is right about 50 pixels. So 50 pixels is what is considered like broadcast safe. Like you gotta have 50, you gotta give a certain amount of margin on the edge of your image. And something that I've been playing with is information tickers for fighting game tournaments. So say something that I've been wishing for a very long time is a ticker that runs across the bottom during a tournament and gives you off-stream results. Because right now, like, it's super uneven. If there's an off-stream match, it really keyed into. And part of this would be, you know, making the ticker is also difficult to do this way. You have to run it off of a tournament platform. So you have to have a challenge bracket or a Smash GG bracket that you have API access to, and then you connect the API to it, and then it can feed match results into something. So a lot of tournaments are still, for very good reason, run on paper brackets. And again, good reasons. Internet connections in convention centers and hotel ballrooms, especially Wi-Fi, are pretty sketchy a lot of the time. They don't work all the time. You have to have a device for every person that you want recording tournament results. So when I was at Combo Breaker, like for instance, we had, I think, 4 pool stations for Street Fighter V. It might have been 8. It might have been 6 or 8. And so you've got one judge per station. So 4, and there are 4 setups per station. And Combo Breaker is kind of an extreme example, but it is an example. And so you're trying to manage 4 matches at the same time, and everybody else is trying to manage 4 matches at the same time. And they're pulling people out of your brackets to have them go up to be streamed. And you're trying to keep track of all this stuff. Now, you could do it with Challenge and just be like, all right, I'm going to say I have an iPad with me. I'm going to take this iPad. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the match that I'm running. I'm going to put in the score. I'm going to say who won. That's great, as long as your internet connection is working and the iPad doesn't crash and things like that, because one of the things that you need to do is you need to make sure these things run on time. And the best way to do that, and the best way to make sure that technology does not get in the way of doing what you need to do, is to do the brackets on paper, and then the bracket results get submitted later, and then a TO or an assistant TO goes through the brackets and puts the results into the bracketing system. So that's why often when you watch a tournament, especially if it's a big tournament, you get a pool's worth of results all at once. Because somebody submitted a paper bracket, and then somebody else took the paper bracket and entered those results into the digital bracket after the fact. This is very good for making sure things run on time. It's very good for making sure that the brackets are, again, not hampered by technology. It's not so good for people who are trying to follow the tournament from not where you are. And so this idea is, okay, maybe we take the bottom part of the screen and we reserve it and we put a ticker down there, and the ticker pulls recent match results, say recent X matches or new matches that haven't been shown yet, and it runs the results of those matches and then ticker on the bottom of the screen. And this removes a little bit of kind of the awkwardness that you have sometimes where often the way you hear about off-stream matches is either on Twitter, because you had somebody looking over somebody's shoulder and something hype happened and they say, oh, this thing happened, everybody needs to know about this, so you're trying to follow this stuff. Or commentators are given like a slip of paper from off camera, or they're given a message on their confidence screen and they're saying, oh, this thing happened over in pool whatever and it wasn't on stream, but you really need to know about it. And it can interrupt the flow. It doesn't work if you're trying to squeeze in like more sponsor announcements, which is going to become more and more commonplace. You have less kind of downtime between pool matches, or if you have a tournament that's run very, very well, the pool matches are just kind of one after another. You don't have a whole lot of downtime where you have two talking heads looking at the camera and trying to tell people like, oh, this thing has happened, that sort of a deal. So this is a really long-winded way to talk about the idea that it's probably a good idea. Let me get rid of some more elements here. MOTD. I'll keep my face cam here so you can see my ugly mug. I'll keep this here in case anybody... No, I'll get rid of this for right now. Event lists, where you were. Okay. And I need... No, this needs to be back because it needs to be behind the bottom ticker. Okay. Let's full screen this bad boy. So, the idea is you got 50 pixels that you can play with. Because, as I mentioned, and let me... okay. Overscan. Very briefly, not every TV shows... not every TV shows every pixel. There are very good reasons for this. They are numerous. I don't really have time to go over them all. Let's see. Image. Add existing. Can I add this again? Yes, I can. Okay. So that's around 50 pixels right there. I'm eyeballing it, but that's pretty close. Okay. So you got these spaces. The 50 pixels kind of at any given edge. And it's less for the left and right edges. But 50 at the top and the bottom is a good rule of thumb. You cannot be guaranteed that any information that's in those 50 pixels is visible to people watching your stream full screen on the TV. So, say I use the PS4 or the Xbox One app. This is becoming more and more common. Or I wanna show it to a bunch of people. So I put it up on a big screen TV. If I haven't calibrated that TV, or I don't know a whole lot about TVs, I might not, these pixels might not even be on my screen. They're basically behind the frame of the TV. So the TV's like zoomed in. That's cool, except as you can see, the tension gauge is actually okay. So Xrg's not too bad in this respect. Like this is actually pretty good. Let me fire up a versus match real quick. All right. Oh man, I am just all over the place right now. Versus. Okay. Confirm. Me over here. Also me over there. Okay. And we'll just select. No. Technical. Notice that the handicap is not there because we turned it off before. Keep the battle layouts. Stay select. Okay. I'm gonna move my face cam down a little bit. Okay. So we'll load this up and we'll take a look. And I'm pretty sure Gear is really good about this, comparatively. Yeah, I know. Intros, whatever. Alright. So, as you can see, the tension gauge is there. It's a little bit hidden. Like, it doesn't say, so I can't see the word tension. So, somebody who's watching it, the word is not necessary. Like, at all. It's just not. I don't need to see the tension gauge option. I should have said it unlimited time, but you know what it is. Oh. Cool. Xrd ignores single button presses by default. That's really rad. Okay, you can still see it here. Okay, so the word tension is not at the bottom. It's not really necessary if the person watching it knows the game. You might run into the problem where a commentator says, oh, it's tension gauge, blah, 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 and the word tension is not there, so somebody who's new to it will be like, what? What's that thing? That's fine. And you can see that risk bar, burst indicator, health bar, character name, wins, time remaining. That stuff is all on screen. It's great. However, note the 50 pixels marked out at the top of the screen. Most broadcasts, if not all of them, put the current game stats up there because it's empty space. But that space is not empty accidentally. They did not leave those 50 pixels alone. And I'll show you. I'll get rid of this. Okay, so there it is. So you have the kind of game status stuff that's usually there, you know, part of the arcade coding, and you have part of the character portrait. But the number of games won, I have a hair. I don't know. There it is. Okay. The number of games that have been won by each player are usually shown up at the top there. They cover up that stuff up at the top. Again, the problem with this is if you have somebody who's on a TV that has Overscan, this is not considered a safe part of the frame. So they can watch the match, but they cannot see the current win-loss for the two people who are playing. So you have... I can't get to it from here, can I? No, I cannot. You have a couple of options for what you want to do with that. You could move the player name and win-loss information to underneath the vitality bars. That is a perfectly valid option. And it would work. Information would be there. Let's see. The other thing you can do is you could scale the entire window down. You could just take your capture window and you could say, okay, I am going to shrink it down so people can see. But now we have additional space on the left and right that we have to fill somehow. We got to have a background or some other information there because blank screen is not visually appealing for most folks. But hey, all the information is now safe. So instead, the other option that we have is we can go to our config and we can move the HUD elements like so. And you can see the very tip top of the HUD. So you could set that one there. And you want to go negative with this one. And let's say you want the very bottom of the tension gauge right there. Boom. There's your 50 pixels on both sides. Now you got all of your HUD information. And now let's go back and take a look at what that looks like. Now, this is going to look pretty different before we get there. Now you can see already that the HUD information has intruded slightly, I would say. Stage select. Let's load it up. But what we've done now is we've made this UI broadcast safe. So anyone who's watching, no matter what their TV does, they should be able to see this information. And we'll see. Let me skip the intros. I didn't read that. Okay, so there we go. Now, all the information is right there. Okay, the word tension at the bottom of the gauge. You can see all the gauges. Now you can see what it does do is it slightly obscures the bottom of the action. Now the problem you have with this is the HUD is also there for the people who are playing a game. This is why it's probably a better idea for most games for you to not mess too much. And you could see the tension, like I said earlier, the tension stuff was visible. The meter itself was visible. That's also not accidental. They do that on purpose. When I had the HUD at the default location. I do think that it is a worthwhile discussion to... Oops. I think it's worth talking about the idea of putting the player names and match status somewhere that is not the top of the screen. And like that's the thing, is everybody does it. Everybody does it. But it's not the best idea when you take a look at it and you realize, oh well, if those 50 pixels are off limits, quote unquote, if I consider that some people might not be able to see them if they're watching in their TV or they're watching in the living room, they're trying to introduce people to it, and they can't see. They literally cannot see. If you have this on a TV with a decent amount of overscan, you would not be able to tell who's winning the match at all. And I think that's information that you shouldn't miss. And there's plenty of space there. You could go from the burst gauge to the win-loss markers and put the player name information there. And the people playing the game don't see that information. It's going to obscure some of the frame, sure. For people who are trying to watch the action, they might miss a couple of things, but it's not going to obscure the action for the people who are actually trying to play the game. And here, you can see I've got the meter in the default location, and I can see my feet. Like, there's a little bit of hiding that happens when I'm at max distance and the scale is out, but normally I'm okay with it. I can see my feet, and I can see the other guy's feet. Oh, it's kind of interesting that they put a rock like right in front of it here. That's the thing. All right. But yeah, so this is one thing I wanted to bring up there was, well, what if we, maybe some people, and let's see, I'll show you. Okay, let's go to MKX. MKX is like the worst offender at this. It's bad. It's bad. I'll show you. So anyway, the ticker thing that I was working on was, what if we took these 50 pixels that you're not guaranteed people can see, and we put results, like off-stream results down there, and they just kind of scroll by, or they kind of do things. And then people who are streaming on the desktop will be able to see them, but people who are on TVs wouldn't see them, but it wouldn't be information that we're too worried about. So, yes. All right. MKX, by default, has lowered health bars set to off. And you cannot change... If I remember correctly, cannot change the position of the UI. No, you cannot. Okay. So we'll go to player versus player. Assign it with P2. We'll random select to make it dumb.
Triborg.
Man, it real sucks. Really sucks that you end up with random variation too, eh? And then we'll random select stage. Okay. Loading bars right there. That's not too bad. But yo, check it.
This is an
Yeah, you got
illusion.
intros.
Round one.
All right.
Fight.
You cannot see the meters at all. It's like they're not even there. Now, the indicators at the top that show what each character can do, those do appear. So that's kind of a compromise. But for instance, the health bar, yo, that's not even there. So I'll show you. I'll go back out to the main menu. I'll flip the setting and show you what it looks like. Options. We got gameplay. Oh, not online. No, come on, idiot. Go to gameplay. Lower the health bars. Yes, I do. Back out. Go to player. PvP. I'm gonna look at Street Fighter 5 in a second on this stuff too, because it's boom.
Alien. Quan Chi.
Kuatan Jungle. Now you'll see that what this does is it pushes the health bars down. My assumption is that this is to enable the same type of stream interface that I was just talking about, where people want to put the player win counts at the top. But it also evens it out so that you're not taking up that 50 pixels up at the top. So this is better. And again, you've got space between the variation there and the stamina bar. And you could put player win-loss there. Here, if you use a small enough font, you could fit player win-loss actually above the vitality bars and you wouldn't lose too much. Like, wouldn't be too big a deal. But you can see, as you know, let me just get myself enough meter here. So X-rays, I mean, I know, right? Nobody does that. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Oh, well, Alien's got it now because I've been beating the crap out of him. Okay. So you can see again the X-ray. A viewer knows I have the ability to do these things, but somebody who's new might not know that that's because there's a bar down there. So that's another example of, hey, here's this thing. It's not adjustable in the options, which I think is a mistake, because it would be a lot less obtrusive for this game than the way Gear is designed and laid out UI-wise for those meters to be just slightly higher. Where's my other offender? BBCF, yo. BBCF does the same thing. But I believe we can move them. And they're kind of visible. They go to like 40 pixels from the edge is what I measured when I messed with it the other day. So let me just pull that up here. Come on, game. Oh, where's my eye? So let's see. Oh, here's a pause menu, long press option. Here in Blaze Blue, you should definitely have that set up. And there we go, upper HUD and lower HUD. And you can see the meters at the bottom at the default. I'll show you what it looks like.
Please select your character. New 13. Nanaya.
Auto all the things. Grave marker.
接触振りっておくけど移動手加減なしだからね。
The wheel of fate is turning. Rebel 1.
Okay, so some things that
Action.
you can't see here. The character names are obscured completely. So somebody who's new doesn't know the characters might find it a little bit difficult. You can see that the meters, the values are slightly obscured, but you can still kind of see how much meter everybody has. The number is mostly visible. It's about 3/4 in frame. But here it's like up at the top. I'll show you. The character names just disappear. And again, that is almost always where broadcasts put player win-loss in. So somebody with Overscan on the TV will not be able to track what's going on in the match. Put that information up there. And again, there is space for somebody to put that information directly under, say, the barrier meter, and you're not missing too much. I think it's not bad. Characters go over the So that's just like, that's a very brief overview of Overscan and how to deal with it. You can see that I use on my screen, I use the bottom 100 pixels for the ticker basically, so somebody follows. There's a
Look at time.
I'm using information, and I move the game into a subframe, largely because I think it's very important for people to be able to see the meter and what people are doing. When you take 100 pixels at the bottom, if you want the face cam and stuff like I do, you want people to actually be able to see you. You need to have enough space for that. So that's why.
Rebel 2. Action.
I'm off to the side. There's probably some discussion that could be had about doing fighting game streams like this, and then you could use the right-hand side or left-hand side. You can swap the two very easily. You'd be able to see the entire frame of action, and you could use the rest of the screen for more UI elements with information. You could put the player wins losses where I put my message of the day. You could put things like if you have a system for queuing matches for stream, you could show the queue for matches underneath one of my face cams. And then people could see, like, okay, this is the match that's on right now, but here's the other stuff that's coming up. Do I want to stick around for these things? And of course you do. You want to make sure that these matches are coming to stream. You got to mix some hype in there, so you want people to see the mix of stuff. People who are kind of new to the commentators will talk about certain basic aspects of it. But you also want to kind of mix in stuff where they're going to see somebody who's super awesome, who's going to completely body somebody and cool, because it kind of keeps the hype kind of roller coaster going. And if you had something that said, oh, well, we're going to see such a person coming up on screen next, that's actually like really cool to have that kind of system. You'd have to build it, but it's definitely a possibility. So again, I'm gonna probably cut things short here.
Look at time.
But I just wanted to kind of spin this up, go through a few things to talk about. Smooth setup, that's what we're doing now. So I'll talk about.
Time up.
Time up.
Draw. Rebel 3. Action.
I just wanted to talk about both how to set up a tournament screen, do a little bit of visual experimentation with that 50% online in both places, so that you can see. When I do full screen broadcasting or something, I get here. Everything on the screen is represented. If I have, 50 pixels up at the top here that I want to deal with, I'm going to lose some information. So maybe I would get rid of the message of the day or make that smaller and kind of push the information down. I wouldn't use the full 100 pixels at the bottom. I would find some way to kind of balance that information out. But you could definitely do a fighting game stream, and I probably will experiment with this, where you have a subframe of the actual action, and you have additional information, kind of UI elements, to the left or right, and then also someone down at the bottom, or maybe even up at the top. Because again, you'll have some people who will be watching either on the TV that's been calibrated to have the full image, or people who are watching on desktop or pop up, or your computer monitor, which almost always shows you the camera. It doesn't have Overscan. And so that way, you're showing those people additional information from that. But you don't consider that information to be critical for everybody to see.
Look at time.
Again, if you are by some miracle watching this, on VRD,
Time up.
and you have some questions, send me a message. Talk to me on Twitch, find me on the website, find me on Twitter, yeah, just send me a message and ask some questions. And maybe I'll do some more of these types of videos so that people can take a look at it and they can get some, maybe we can drive some discussion on these sorts of things and have better productions for everybody involved. So, other than that, everybody have a good one, and I'll see you around.
구독 중